systemic racism.
Not anymore. Obviously, there was. We had something called slavery. We had something called Jim Crow.
That destroyed black. Hold on, sir. That was system that destroyed. That was the system that destroyed Black Wall Street. It's the same system right now that's not even wanting to pay those same living descendants. Because I know your position on reparations, but those same living descendants of Black Wall Street.
Okay.
And then you move, and then you go on to say that the system, the quote unquote system, is also trying to destroy President Trump. So I'm just so confused on: do you believe that?
What's up, you guys? This is Real Talk Corner. I am your host, Ariana the Quantum Healer, and my co-host, Sabrina Williams, in the building. Woo! Well, we are back, and we are going to be covering some stuff tonight. We're going to just jump into it because we have a pretty, I don't know if we'll be able to watch the whole thing, but we'll watch as much as we can. Larry Elder. And you guys know, we told you we were going to be covering the presidential candidates. We said we would be bringing it to the table so we could talk about it, so we could show you guys who's running. But interesting enough, another breakfast morning. What is their fucking title? Shit.
Breakfast Club.
The Breakfast Club morning show. Another epic fail for them in interviewing presidential candidates. And we're going to wonder why. I haven't watched all of it. I saw some clips of it myself. So we're going to watch it all together for the first time and see how we feel about it. I ain't going to say nothing else. We just going to watch it. I ain't going to say nothing else about it. We just going to watch it, y'all.
Wake that ass up. In the morning. The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Charlemagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We have Tesman Figueroa with us, and we got a special guest in the building, 2024 Republican presidential candidate, Larry Elder. Welcome, brother.
Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor.
How you feeling?
Feel good.
He does more than that, though. I mean, he was a radio host.
Radio host for 40 years.
Author, TV host.
Author,
New York Times best-selling list. Got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Corner of Hollywood and Vine, Southeast corner, just saying.
Okay.
I didn't know you had a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah,
man.
yeah, about a handful of radio guys do, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, I think it's you, Elvis Duran,
Angie
Howard
Martinez.
Stern,
Yeah.
Big Boy. Oh, Angie
Martinez.
A guy named Arthur Godfrey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's jump right into it. Why are you running for president?
Well, I'm running as an America First mega guy, and we have the America First mega guy running, obviously. The question is, what do you bring to the table?
You said MAGA.
Mega.
Okay.
And the answer is, I bring a lot of issues to the table that I feel our side is not talking enough about, if at all. For example, the number one social problem in America by far. 70% of Black kids today enter the world without a father in the home, married to the mother. That's 25% back in 1995. That's 25% of white kids enter the world today without a father in the home. With that clear, even Barack Obama was like, you raised a lot of dads, you're 5 times more likely to score and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to what's happening. In the mid-60s, was I think the best of intentions, a Democrat named Lyndon Johnson called the war on poverty. And we have incentivized women to marry the government and incentivized men to get animals and men to take moral responsibility. You know, when I say this to people, the pushback I get is, well, there are lots of things that are going on, systemic racism, poverty. Here's the problem. Look at a young Black male, age 10 to 43. That's young to me because I'm 71 years old. A young Black man in that demo is 13 times more likely to be murdered than a young white man, same demo. Young Black man, real young, 19 and under, the number one cause of preventable death is homicide, almost always at the hands of another young Black male. Same demo for whites, the number one cause of preventable death is unintentional deaths. That includes drug overdoses, automobile accidents, drownings. It's not until they get to number 4 that death is the cause. In America, 60% of the shootings, the robberies, and the homicides are committed by Black people, often against other Black people. Of the homicides in this country, half of them are Black victims, almost all killed by other Blacks. How do you explain that if it isn't for the absence of fathers? Are you prepared to say Black people are just genetically inclined to commit more crime? I doubt it. And the go-to reaction often is poverty, and systemic racism. Here's the problem. 1940, when there was blatant racism. This is before Brown versus Board of Education, before the Civil Rights Act of 64. KKK was still alive and well. 87% of Blacks lived under the poverty line. Now it's about 14%. You can't blame it on poverty. You can't blame it on racism. It is the breakdown of the nuclear intact family, and neither side is talking about it. The left doesn't talk about it because they caused it with the welfare state, and our side does not talk about it because if you're white, you'll be accused of dissing single moms who are heroically raising these kids, or you'll be accused of being a racist, or if you're Black, you'll be accused, as I was by the LA Times, of being the black face of white supremacy. Nobody's talking about that. I am.
What are the reasons, if your statistics are right, what are the reasons that you think fathers aren't in the home?
As I said, it's because in the mid-60s, Lyndon Johnson launched what he called the War on Poverty. In Charlemagne, literally, they sent social workers door to door in the inner city. I remember this, advising women of the availability of welfare provided there was no man in the house. It created an economic incentive for women to marry the government. Same thing with whites. In 1965, 8% of whites entered the world without a father in the home, married to the mother. Now it's about 25%, also up threefold. Look at census data, 1910, 1920, 1930, in places like Milwaukee.
I love that he's bringing this up as some of his first points, because we talk about this a lot on the show, and just like, you have to talk about this. You can't just skip always over to white people holding everybody down. It's like,
Right.
when you had it's just, you got to look at some of these facts here. You got to look at that. And that's why I always get mad at when I see marches just when it's a white cop on a Black person. And I'm like, where's the fucking march for the little girl that just got shot? Where's the march for that little 6-year-old boy who just fucking lost his life from some gang stupid ass violence? And I always get irritated with that, because we're quick to march on some shit. Once it becomes a color thing, oh, let's jump on that. But we won't sit here and address some real shit. And so luckily he's old enough to be like, no, I was here.
Right.
I was here when this shit was happening, and they did. Welfare crushed families.
Yes.
I was raised in a welfare home. You know what I mean? That they just gave that, and there was no push to make anyone go to work, get schooling, or any of that. Oh, you got a kid? Here you go.
Right. And it's still like that today. If a single mother applies for shelter or anything with children, she's likely to get housing way before a father who is a single father puts in an application.
Yes.
Before he gets called. And those are true facts. And even with still today, like women that are on Section 8 and stuff, you can't be married. You can't have a husband in the home. Like, I know people that were on Section 8 and were in relationships with their husband, well, baby father, whatever. And when they would come to the house, they would have to act like that's a brother or that's a relative. Right. They could not say that was their significant other.
Right. Because they would come and check the home.
Yeah, till this day, it's still like that. Like, and it's crazy because it started back then. And that's how a lot of women were. They were putting out their significant others in order to get the services from the government, which to me teared a lot of, 2-family homes.
Yeah. My mom says it to this day. She's like, I got married for Section 8.
That's what I'm saying. So you could just imagine, and back then and even to this day, like I said, to this day, they're not, it's to me the same laws because they are still doing the same thing. They are getting Section 8. They're not, saying they're in relationships or they're married or whatever because, fear of them losing their Section 8 and stuff like that. So, I mean, they knew what they started. Because
of course,
that started way back, and it's sad because a lot, like what he said, a lot of generations did grow up without a father in the home due to the welfare system.
Right. And I remember when a little bit after I had my daughter, it was a low income apartment complex that had accepted me in, and I went and lived there for a couple months. And they were very strict, like, your boyfriend can't live there, the baby daddy can't live there, and it was just like, but what if we're together?
Right.
It's like, what if we're together and struggling? He can't live there. It was very strict. And those rules are very adamant. Like, no, no. And if they catch it, and then I remember because he used to come, we did stay together. I mean, come on, we broke the rules. But even on the sense of when they would be like, oh, we always see him there. And I'm like, he can't come and pick up his child and take his child to
Exactly.
fucking daycare. And they were just on it like, no, you're going to end up having to move. So I ended up moving because I was like, y'all watching my apartment that strongly to be like, y'all see him every day. What if he was just that father that was coming to pick up his kid every day and go take him while I go to work or whatever I got going on?
Exactly. A father who's involved. It's like
No, they
you're
break you down like, nope,
that's
baby daddy can't
crazy.
be there, can't come there. This, they looking at who's coming in and out. And it was just like, so when you hear what he's saying, this shit is fucking real because it pushed people to be like, well, if I don't put you on the lease, then we, this, that. And then where did the men have to go? They sure in the fuck weren't staying there.
Exactly. It's true.
Broke down just to get this crumbs of a help from fucking the government.
Definitely not worth it. And I mean, I don't know if today society still sees, because I say it's still going on, and they're still doing that. There's still women who are choosing to be on government assistance, welfare, whatever it is, and Section 8 programs, whatever, to where the kid's father cannot live in the home and basically not be involved, because like you said, if they're watching and you at risk of losing a roof over your head, your housing, due to your kid's father wanting to be involved, not even if you in a relationship with him, you may not be in a relationship, but like you said, he may be involved and come to the house, pick up the kids, stay with the kids while you go work. And that is breaking the rules. Like, it's still today to me a control thing. And it's like, okay, we'll give you this, but we're going to control this.
I was like, what, 17 at the time? I was so always nervous, on edge, thinking we were about to be put out. You know what I mean? Because you're constantly in this fear of, I'm going to lose my home. I'm going to be homeless with my kids. I'm not going to have. And so I ended up just saying, fuck it, let's move. Fuck this shit. We paying I think, because I had started working it anyway. So it was like, I was paying, I think, $200 at the time. And so we found a place that was like $400. And it was like, fuck it, we just going to pay $400. Like, and just deal with it. Of course, that doesn't sound like much these days, but back then in the late 90s, $400 for rent for someone who was making minimum wage at $4 an hour, barely part-time, that was actually a lot. But yeah, it was like that even then. So I could imagine in the 60s, when they first initialized this, to be like, oh yeah, we could give you this and we can give you that, because it didn't stop people from having kids. You were like, oh well, now you have the ones that were then having kids because they can get money. That's the extra such and such on my check. Then you had not only parents, but you had dope hands, you had grandmothers and shit coming in like, oh, I can get this money, and now we got more food. It's just this cycle of craziness that we're not going to address this. We're not going to talk about this because we know it's a generational thing at this point. At this time, I'm 40. It's a generational thing.
Yeah, it started from somewhere, and like you said, so go back to when it started, because it's still happening to today.
Right.
And like you said, if we don't talk about it, how are we gonna ever, you know what I mean? Like, to me, because there are still women who are doing the same thing to get into the programs, to get the Section 8, to do this. They're not putting the income of their husband, or they're putting their husband out. Like you said, not even putting them on the lease. So where, technically, if you're not on a lease, you're considered homeless. You know what I mean? So you are breaking up families, all for what? To get a program, to have help with rent, you know what I mean? So nothing is free, to where these girls may think, oh, I'm getting free this, or I'm getting this, that, and the third. No, you're paying a price. And what price is that of your child growing up without his or her father?
Right. It does. And it's been this like kind of secret way that we're so caught up on everything else that we've missed this huge part of it. And none of these families get ahead in life until somebody finally breaks the chain and says, no more. Because I know, like me, I was just like, fuck this. Well, fuck this. Because even me, I was like, soon as they kept saying they needed to know who's in the house and what's going on and this and that, I was like, y'all can keep this little help. I will go work before I sit here and have to fucking dictate everything of my whole entire life to you guys. I was just like, nah, I'm good. Good. Y'all can keep that shit. And, because it's crazy because even me and my daughter have had these conversations because now she's like 26, but there was a moment where even she had to realize that she felt so entitled to aid, so entitled to help. And she'd get so mad because, like Florida, they don't really give a lot of assistance in Florida, and she used to have this like entitlement. And I was like, you don't think that's entitlement, thinking that they have to give you something? They ain't got to give you shit.
Right.
The government don't got to give you anything. So be blessed of what you did get that helped you put you on your feet and then be out of it. So even she had to take a step back and be like, damn, I'm actually very entitled with this fucking government
Right.
assistance. And you see generations who are raised on it that now are entitled to, you thinking this money is just yours. This is free money, and it ain't free money. Somebody got to come up with this. Somebody paying for this shit.
Exactly.
It's not free. And then you breaking down your own lines to get this so-called free money. But what
and it's
really
true
doing?
because even down to child support, if you're on government assistance, they are taking child support from the father, but you're not receiving the child support. The government assistant is who's receiving the child support. I know many cases of that where they take $200, $300, $400 from the father, and the woman ain't seeing nothing because she's on government assistance, because she's in a program, she's getting food stamps, so that money is going straight to the welfare.
Right.
Like even back child support, it's the welfare now against him, because they'll give you that money, they'll give you that rent money, they'll give you that money for the crib or whatever, things you need when you're first having a baby. But the minute he's on child support, he has to pay all that back.
Right.
Which is weird to me, child support level. We could talk about this on another thing,
right?
Which is like, you know what I mean? Like between a mom and a dad, okay, he's paying all this. What is the mother doing? Because technically the mother is not taking care of the kid financially. It's the government that is.
Right. Right. I think on a level like to be, and we probably are going to cover this on it because we can go in on this, because I do feel on a level where mom is getting cash aid, you're not providing for this child. If you working, then you would go down there, you would file your child support, and you would handle it that way between you and him. When I went and filed child support, I was working. So it was my income against his income. It wasn't
exactly.
Just, you know what I mean? Later on, then, there was like, even when my daughter got pregnant, she had Medicaid and stuff. And I remember him calling me like, take her off or something. And I'm like, I don't get no assistance for this girl, but she's underage and she gets Medicaid. So you gonna have to pay for that. What you do about that? But I do feel it should be on both parents, because if you're not, and I'm the mom who tried to get a job and have health care through my job, and I would just deal with my little ass checks so that we would have a better insurance, because I didn't want to fuck with that Medicaid. But if you're not doing that and you're just sitting on, you got Medicaid and you getting food stamps and you getting cash aid, you're living in housing, then you and the baby daddy should be paying that shit back, not just the baby daddy. But we should do a whole show on that. We're gonna piss
we definitely I'm all for it, because I got stories to tell. I know people who's been going through it with that, and it's like, even with the word independent, a lot of women is like, I'm an independent woman, I'm an independent woman. When you don't work, you get cash assistance, you getting food stamps, your rent is $20, which the government is paying. How are you independent? Because the government is taking care of you. Ain't no independence in that.
Nope.
Yeah, so we definitely could talk about it. And us, we talk about shit that these chicks are not gonna like what we have to say, but it is what it is, because it's real to corner. So.
We do got to talk about those, because man, those are some real ass things that are happening, and people are quick to say that, but when you break it down, you're like, ooh. All right, let's get back to the video.
Chicago, Philadelphia, a young black kid was slightly more likely to be brought into a world with a father in the home married to the mother than a young white kid. We have incentivized this kind of bad behavior, and it's had a disproportionately bad effect on the black community.
Let me ask you a question. What do white people do wrong, Larry?
What do you mean? What do white people do? I'm not worried about white people. I'm worried about what's going on with us.
But if there's systemic racism in this country, which we know it is.
No, I don't say there is. You say there is. I don't believe that.
Oh, you don't believe there's?
No, there used to be, obviously. Tell me what you think the number one systemic example of systemic racism is in America.
Oh man, there's so many.
Just give me the most important one you think.
At the top of mind, I probably maybe say mass incarceration. Maybe.
Really? In During the Great Depression, when 50% of Black adults were unemployed, you didn't have this kind of mass incarceration. It's the breakdown of the family. There's a direct.
I'm not going to. I agree with the family part. I'm a Black man who is a father to his children, and I'm a happily married Black man to a Black woman. So I'm never going to argue with that part, But I just feel like everything is black with you. Black is wrong. Black people do this and Black people do that. And when I ask you what white people do wrong, you said you're not worried about white people at all.
I'm talking about the damage, disproportionate damage going on in the Black community. For example, look at these smash and grabs that are taking place in Los Angeles, where I live. There's a suburb called Glendale, where at a mall recently, a mob of 30 to 40 people, they had masks on, but one guy got popped. He was a Black. I think most of those who were doing this were Black. And in recent years and times, there have been a number of these in places like Chicago, places like New York. If I were involved in something like that, Charlemagne, I grew up with a dad, just as you're raising your own children. I would have been more afraid of my father than I would about the cops catching me. These kids are afraid of neither. They don't have a father in the home. Cops are demoralized. They're pulling back. Their manpower is short. And as a result, you tell a bad guy you're less likely to be caught, convicted, incarcerated, crime goes up. They may be criminals, but they're not stupid. When you say, what do white people do? I mean, this is a country that has struggled mightily to get over its historic racism. There was a civil war. There was a big civil rights movement. This is the only majority white country that's ever elected a Black president, let alone reelected a Black president. The three biggest cities in America are New York, Chicago, LA. They all have Black mayors, even though no city has a majority of Black population. The president of Harvard is a Black female. Martin Luther King in 1966, Charlemagne, gave an interview to the BBC. This is 2 years after the Civil Rights Act of 64 got passed. And he said, I'm amazed at how many positive changes there have been in America in the last 2 years. Why, if things keep going like this, we could have a Black president in about 40 years' time. Do the math. Right on cue, Barack Obama elected 2008. He didn't say there'll be a Black female president of Harvard, and there has been. He didn't say there are going to be Black CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, and there have been several. He didn't say the percentage of the House would equal the percentage of Black people in the population, and it does. He didn't say the three largest cities would have Black mayors, and they do. He didn't say the largest and most prestigious organization of doctors, the American Medical Association, would have 2 Black presidents, and there have been. He didn't say the most prestigious organization of lawyers, the American Bar Association, would have 2 Black presidents, and they have. He said president, meaning at that point, I can feel that I've reached the mountaintop, which is the speech he gave right before he got assassinated the day before. And now we act as if Barack Obama never even got elected. And we're still talking about systemic racism. It's not fair. It's wrong. And you're discouraging Black people from working hard. 1990.
Okay. Mr. Elder, a quick question. Let's just remove the word racism, since that seems to be a word that triggers, a conversation down the water hole. Let's just focus on the word system. You mentioned that the system was the one that discouraged. And again, we have no problem with agreeing that the family, the Black family, should certainly has some room for some improvement. But let's just focus on system.
Room for improvement?
System. Well, we're not going to go down that water. We're not going to go down that water hole. Let's get to the question. So the question is, you said that the system encouraged Black women to be single mothers, correct?
I said the welfare state, yes.
The welfare, the system. So who's in charge of the system? Who was in charge of the system?
Well, it was Democrats that passed it.
And who were Democrats? Were they Black or white at that time?
Well, at the time, majority of Black people were Democrats, as the majority of Black people are Democrats now.
Not the voters. I'm talking about the system. Remember, the main idea is the word system. Who was in charge of the system at the time? The Democrats at the time, the system. I'm just going to Charlemagne's point about white or Black. Was it white Democrats in charge of the system or Black Democrats in charge of the system?
Well, if you're prepared to say that Lyndon Johnson did this viciously with an intent to destroy the Black family, I disagree. He did it with the best of intentions. And if you look at the New York Times, which is left wing, the Washington Post, which is left wing, they cheered all of this.
Right. And what I'm asking, was it white people? So I'm going to ask again in case my mic's not coming through clearly. Was it white people in charge of the system or Black people in charge of that system that helped break down the Black family? It's a simple yes, just a simple question, white or Black?
Well, you didn't have to go on welfare unless you voluntarily chose to go on welfare. The inducement was put there by Democrats, by the left.
Correct? Okay. Democrats,
most black people were Democrats, and they voted for these white people.
Not voters. I said who's in charge of the system.
Well, who puts them in charge?
Was Lyndon Johnson white or Black?
Who puts them in charge?
Maybe that'll help.
Fine. Lyndon Johnson was white.
Thank you.
Okay. But if your argument is that the reason he did it is because of racism, then I disagree. He did it because of.
That's not my argument. I just asked you a simple question: was he white or Black, Charlemagne?
And Mr. Elder, you said
always have to like go to this point of this who was in charge, and it's true. Like, there are more blacks that are Democrats and have been over the history of voting, right? That we not we when I was a Democrat, right? We were the ones voting people in. And if these people didn't have our back, we got to step back and kind of take some of this fucking slack. We have to be like, you know what? I voted for this motherfucker. I am part of the issue.
But it goes back. I mean, honestly, to me, the point he's really trying to make is okay. Even if a white person did put this in, it was the woman's choice to choose if that's what she wanted to do.
Right.
You know
right,
what I mean?
right,
It's
right.
not like they said you had to do that.
Right.
That was the choice. If you want to get on, you know, welfare or whatever,
Right.
the father can't be in the house. She
Right.
chose to get on welfare and not have the father in the house. So to me, like, my thing is this: take accountability.
Right.
Because it wasn't like a law. Every woman had to take welfare.
Right.
It was your choice if you wanted to be on welfare. It was your choice if you wanted to be on government assistance. But you didn't know what comes with it if you chose that. The
Right.
father could not be in the home. So if you as a woman took that choice and said, well, I'd rather get this amount of money from the government every month
Mhm.
and put my husband out or my baby father, whatever, my significant other out, then that was your choice. Take accountability for that. To me, you can't blame nobody, whether it was a white person who put in welfare or whatever.
Yeah.
It was your choice to.
Yeah.
It's different if it was something that we had to do.
Like it was
It wasn't
mandatory.
something we had to do. It was something
Right.
a lot of women chose to do. So
Right.
take accountability of that, and knowing that if you did take this service, if you did take this help, that the father could not be in the home, and you chose the money over
Right.
having your significant other. Who's
Right.
the blame to that? To me, I don't think that's a white person. A white person is not the blame of that.
I don't
Okay.
like me getting aid when I did. There's times where I went and got aid. No one forced me to. There was not a gun to my head that said you have to do it. We know I was raised in the same setup. Was like, go down there, get your food stamps, girl. You could get this. Go down there and get some free shit. Motherfuckers in the neighborhood knew where to go, where to sign up.
Mm-hmm. Soon as you get pregnant, you apply for food stamps because now you're going to get food stamps for the children. And the more kids you got, the more food stamps you got. Like,
Right.
It was in our communities
Right.
all the time. But again,
Right.
like you said, it was the choice of if that's what we wanted to do, or
Right.
the choice of, I remember when I got with my husband and I had the twins, he said, I do not want you on any public assistance.
Right.
That was his first thing because he grew up on it all his life.
Right.
He said, I want you to be a stay-at-home mom. I will go work. And that's what he did. And we didn't have any kind of assistance. And he was on the lease. And we didn't have to hide nothing. You know what I mean? Because he did work. You know what I mean?
Right.
We didn't have to recertify for anything and people be in our business of how much he's making and stuff because we didn't have the government in our business. And that was something he chose to do. He was like, I don't want you on any kind of government assistance. I want you to stay at home and take care of the twins. And that's what I did.
Right.
Again, a choice. Because I could have went the other way and said, you know what? I'ma still go apply for welfare. I'ma still go have the welfare pay my rent. I'ma still, but you know what? I ain't gonna be able to put you on the lease because they gonna want to know your income. We did not do that. We just paid everything ourselves. But again, like what you were saying earlier, we didn't have to worry about who knocked on the door, if there was any recertifications, or we didn't. And it's a sense of relief to not have that. And again, it goes back to a choice. So when she's trying to come at him sideways of what color the person was who made this law, to me that's irrelevant of what color the person was. Even if he had ill intentions, even if that was his intentions, was to break up the black families. I mean, it takes us to go apply and say, you know what, you're gonna have to leave because I'm gonna go get on welfare.
Right.
So it doesn't matter the color of who passed the law. To me, it doesn't matter the color. Even if his intent was an ill intent. You know what I mean? Because we don't know. But my thing is this, it goes back to the choice. It wasn't like this was something, like you said, that we had to do, that this was a state law that every woman has to get on welfare. No, this was a choice thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I that's foul for her to come at him like that. Because no, it doesn't really matter who created it. We all have that choice. And again, like I said, some of us, like I said, I came up a certain way. I was raised in a welfare home. So all of that was very normal. It was there. Go get it. Go sign up. Go, and my baby
Mm-hmm.
daddy had no problems with me doing it and keeping him off the lease. You know what I mean? And we did that. Does it bite you in the ass? Yes, because again, at some point, it's going to come back around, and somebody got to pay for it. And we knew all those things. We knew child support was going to come after him. We knew all of those things when we were doing it. You know, it wasn't a problem until me and him wasn't together. Of course, then it was the problem.
Right.
But at those times, like I said, I never stayed on it. There was times where I did go for it and I needed it. There was times where it was rough for me because I didn't get child support. He didn't pay no child support. So the only enforcement was through child support when I got aid in certain places. But I never stayed on it. I was like, nah, fuck this. I don't want this. I don't want to stay on this. I don't want to be, I don't want to deal with this shit. I never felt it was enough either. I never
Mm-hmm.
felt that money was enough. I was like, I'd rather go and work and make some money than
Exactly.
sit here and get this and be fucking broke and don't have money at the end of the month and worrying, going to churches and all that shit. I was like, well, I was raised in that. I didn't want to do that shit. So again, we know that it's our choice, and I'm glad because people talk shit, but in the 90s is when Bill Clinton rolled that back to work shit. You had to,
Mm.
I remember in California, they called it gain. Your ass didn't have a choice. Now you had to go back to a work
You
study.
have to work for your welfare check.
Yeah, you had to go to work. So even if you didn't work, you had to go in and you had to call and do all these applications.
It
You had to do
show,
so
yeah.
many applications a week. And, you had to apply for unemployment. You had to show that you weren't just sitting on your ass. And I loved when they did that because it started to make people sell. But people still learn how to cut corners. People
Even
still learn how to.
to this
Yeah.
day, people are still quitting jobs or not getting that raise
Mhm.
or turning down positions because they on Section 8 or they on housing or some kind of program that
Right.
they will pay a certain amount if your income is a certain amount. So they won't
Right.
take certain jobs in certain positions because
Mhm.
they will be making a good amount and won't qualify for those those programs.
Yeah.
And they're willing to not move up in their job or apply for
Right.
that job where they're making $20-$25 because now that'll be too much and they won't qualify for
Yeah.
what. But then, like you said, to me it's like when you do the math, to me it's always less, a better thing because now you
Right.
don't have to deal with that. They're not in your business.
Right.
Because any little raise you get, they willing to cut you off or not
Yeah.
pay enough or
Yeah.
whatever it is. So now you don't have to deal with that, but it's people are still
Yeah.
doing it to this day.
It is, and I understand why some people do it because I know being that my daughter was a teenage parent, they automatically put her on my, like if she was my, like all three of them were mine, so they automatically was like because she's living with mom, so she barely got any assistance. There was times where she barely got any assistance living with me. I mean, literally, like they'd give her maybe $20, and it was like, what the fuck are they giving you? But because of my income, and it was crazy because they would be like, well, you make this, they can't help her, which is like, fine, whatever. But then when I would go to try to get some of these apartments, they would say, oh, you make too much. And it was just like, okay, so now I could see how when you really don't have help, how you get sucked into it and being like, well, damn, if I make too much, now I'm stuck and I can't get this place and I need this place, but you always can work through that. If you need help, get the help when you need it, but don't stay there. Don't stay in that place.
Exactly.
Don't stay in, or
Exactly.
if I do better, no, you should strive to fucking do better. You should be
Exactly.
happy when you don't qualify for this shit. You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
And it's funny because I remember being this. I remember moving to the South and
Mhm.
having food stamps and only having food stamps. And I started working at Walmart, and I was like working in the bakery, so they paid a little more money.
Mhm.
So my income and his income, because we were both on the lease, they cut me off. They
Right.
they they gave me like $8. They were
Yeah.
like, yeah, you guys' income don't qualify for the food stamps. And it's funny because that we both laughed about it. Like we only get $8 now, but it goes back to what you said. You make it work. because we were now putting $500, $600, $700 toward food in cash.
Right.
You know, you make it work. You know what I mean? Because the income is there, you know, you probably have to sacrifice a few things other than when they were giving you those extra $300-$400, and now it's $8 and it's a family of 5, but you figured it out. You know what I mean? And it goes back to figuring it out. And even that, like, after that, with the $8, I'm like, I'm not, when it was time to like recertify, I'm like, I'm not recertifying for what, $8?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I know, I just let it go. But it does make you feel kind of a little proud to say that I am able to, and it goes back to what you said. I wasn't on it when I had the twins, but I wound up getting on it when I relocated. Because now I'm in a new state. I'm like, let me apply. And, you know, I wasn't working. He was the only one working at the time. And I think that's what it's for. I think it's for those times. Those times when you do kind of hit rock bottom, or you are starting over, you are relocating. It's not for you to be on for 20 years.
No. Because I even remember even the mindset, the psychology behind it. You get into this like, oh, I wish I had food stamps right now. And it's like, this is not, this is like this. No, you can spend cash. You know, the mindset of it is it's even that. And you even see people who get tons of food stamps selling that shit. It's like, you don't even need this.
Exactly.
You don't need it if you're selling it. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck with nobody. You don't need these food stamps if you're selling them. And I used to talk shit about it. I still do. Cause I'm just like, yeah, you don't need this shit if you're selling it. Cause me, I ain't selling my food. So never sold my food stamps. It's just like, no, I need this shit. Thank you. I remember people used to be like, hey, you got food stamps? Not for you. But yeah, you definitely could get into the negative kind of swirl of it. And then you get dependent on this, thinking that I need this to survive. And then you get into these survival states of, if I get kicked off, what am I going to do? But it's like, no, if you get kicked off, you're good. You're good. Keep going.
That is so true. I mean, I lived in housing in New York. I lived in housing. My rent was $250. But when I left in 2010, I don't live in housing. I have to come up with this cash. I have to come up with 15, 12, 1,000, whatever the rent is, and light and water and all this stuff. I have to come up with it. I don't have the, you know, the luxury. I guess some people who will feel they have the luxury of living in housing, paying, you know, $50. Or I remember my neighbor didn't have any income, and her rent was $2. And mine was $250. But, you know, it goes back to that. You know what I mean? You do get, you know, dependent on your rent only being $250. So you have the latest sneakers and the latest this and the jewelry, and it's even now in the South, they have housing projects out here, $50 the rent could be, and there's people parking a car note, $550 car in those housing projects. So you know they get comfortable.
Yeah,
but it goes back to that, the probably having to hide, you know, your man or your company when they come do a check, or the fact that they can't come, or, you know, whatever it is. Because at the end of the day, I mean, they're going to make the rules. And if you break them, like you said, now it's, oh, you broke the rules and we can put you out. Like,
and they quick to be like threatening you. I remember that they are quick to threaten you. And so you go into this vicious cycle. But again, it should have been emergency assistance only to help you get back on your feet. Once you were back on your feet, the aid should have discontinued, not continue forever and ever and ever, you know. And if you keep getting back on it, you have to stop and say, what am I doing in my life that I keep needing to go back to this government assistance? What is happening that I keep needing to go back to this? Because this is not life. And I think that's where a lot of families, people are failing each other, to be like, this shouldn't be the goal. This shouldn't be the generational goal.
Right. You know? No, you're right.
You know, this ain't really a come up. This is not a come up. You get sucked into this vicious cycle, and then you do start to self-sabotage your own success in life, thinking that you gotta like somehow play the system. So I like that he's bringing this up already. She already is going to irritate me because she needs to always be disrespectful to her guests. And I just think you don't need to get on here with that type of way of talking down to somebody, but I guess she always got to prove a point. So, you know, that ego on this one, boy. Lord.
you talked about the smash and grabs, right? And I find that interesting because when you see the mass shootings that happen, majority of those people are white males. What do you think about that?
Actually, if you look at the percentage of whites in America, which is 60%, percentage of mass shooters is under that. The percentage of people that commit hate crime is under that. The percentage of people who are serial killers is under that. Black people are 13% of the population. We commit a greater percentage compared to that
but no,
of
you
mass
specifically
shootings.
talked about the smash and grabs, though. So I was saying, since you're using that as an example, I'm saying, well, what about the mass shooters that are usually white males?
One more time, they are usually white males because 60% of the country is white. However, they underrepresent in terms of the number of mass shootings. About 50% or so of the mass shootings in this country are committed by white people, even though white people are 60% of the population. They underrepresent. We overrepresent when it comes to hate crime, when it comes to mass shootings, when it comes to serial killings, when it comes to robberies, when it comes to virtually every category of violent crime. We overrepresent.
So what do white people do wrong? I'm gonna keep asking you that because I want.
Well,
like you.
All right, y'all. That's what we got for you tonight. I hope for today or whenever you're watching this. I hope you guys gain something out of this shit. Definitely drop us a comment. Let's chit chat in the comments and talk about this. Again, there's no wrong answer to any of this. If you don't agree, you don't agree. But as long as you keep it respectful in the comments, then we all right. So until next time, y'all. Bye.